Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast. My name is Andrew Bermudez. I'm the co-founder of CEO of Digsy. We make it very easy for business owners to find commercial real estate. That includes office buildings, warehouse buildings, and retail buildings, and commercial spaces for their business. What we do is we have a team of amazing commercial real estate experts throughout the nation that do all of the searching for on behalf of the business owner. Not only do they find the space, they pick them up, drive them to buildings, and negotiate an amazing deal. All of those services are free to them. Today I've got the great opportunity to talk to one of our top Digsy experts. His name's Alan Buchanan. And Alan's been in the commercial real estate for a very long time. He's extremely talented and has a large social media following as well. With that being said, Alan, I'm just going to take it off to you.
Thank you, Andrew, and thanks so very much for giving this opportunity today to talk to you a little bit. I'm a huge Digsy fan. I believe what you and your team have created with a means of occupants in the marketplace searching for their ideal office space is phenomenal, and I'm just thrilled to be a Digsy referral partner. So as Andrew mentioned, my name is Alan Buchanan. I'm a principal with Lee and Associates Commercial Real Estate Services. We have 51 offices nationwide, 3 here in Orange County, California. And we do a couple of things. We help occupants, much like your clients, Andrew, find suitable office, warehouse, and retail space. And then we also assist owners who have vacant buildings in finding tenants and buyers for those vacant buildings. And I thought I would spend just a couple of minutes today and talk about some trends that I'm seeing in the Orange County, California marketplace, and specifically as it applies to industrial space, because that's been my specialty for the past 30 years. We're seeing a trend in Orange County industrial where 97 of every 100 buildings located in the county is occupied. And for those math whizzes out there, that's a 3% vacancy. It's the lowest that I've ever seen it since I've been in the business. We've only tracked vacancy numbers since 1985 when C.B. Richard Ellis pioneered that, and I've never seen it lower. And to the point where if you're in the marketplace looking for available space, there's just not a whole lot available for you. Now, in terms... Go ahead, sorry.
Just for the audience, for perspective, you've been in the business since when?
Since 1984.
Okay, so that is the lowest vacancy we've ever seen.
Right, the lowest that we've ever seen. And just to give you some context, when we drove off the cliff in 2008, about 7 years ago, our vacancy at the time was hovering somewhere between 5 and 6% industrially. Now, from an office perspective, and mind you, I don't lease and sell office space for a living as a general rule, but office space is not quite as healthy, so to speak. Office space right now is in the double digits in terms of vacancy, but the trend we are seeing in office space, which is interesting, is big blocks of space. Space between 10 and 20,000 square feet is in very, very short supply. And at the other end of the spectrum, small office spaces, let's say spaces between 200 and 1,000 square feet, are also becoming very, very difficult to find. And as you can guess, as an occupant either of office or industrial space, as fewer and fewer and fewer alternatives are available, that means owners of property are becoming stingier, lease concessions, diversions from asking lease rates, free rent, moving expenses, TIs, all those sorts of things, tenant improvements, all those sorts of things are becoming less of a part of a deal, and landlords are sticking to their original asking prices. They're getting annual increases, and so it's really an imbalance in favor of owners these days. Very different than it was 4 years ago.
What are you seeing as far as lease rates? Are they creeping up, and what's the average lease rate?
We are. We're seeing lease rates creep up probably about 15% since the beginning of 2013. Sales prices, on the other hand, have increased almost 50% since January of 2013. Right. So if you bought a property and paid $100 a square foot in January of 2013, that same property today is worth $150 a square foot. We've actually eclipsed 2007 levels.
What's causing this? Is there an economic driver in the industrial real estate space? I mean, what trends are you seeing out there as far as occupants and who's gobbling up space?
Sure. So we're seeing a couple of things happen. First of all is we have less industrial space as a macro available than we did at the beginning of 2013. There is a higher and better use for many industrial properties, as an example, apartment buildings. So apartment developers are buying industrial buildings and they're scraping on them, building high-rise apartments. We're seeing that trend happen around the Anaheim Stadium, which was a big industrial base. We're seeing it happen down close to the Irvine, in the Irvine area near John Wayne Airport. It's become a big trend. So there's less macro industrial space available, number one. Number two, we've seen a tremendous amount of merger and acquisition activity in the marketplace, both from an organic competition standpoint and also from competitors outside the marketplace coming in and buying industrial companies. And so that's created some organic growth. And frankly, the 2008 depression, and I call it a depression because it was, the 2008 depression caused a lot of thinning of the ranks, if you will. So industrial companies during that time, if they've survived for the last 5 years, are very strong. There are fewer of them, and we're seeing quite a growth.
Right. Are you expecting more construction to take place in the industrial space since the vacancy is so low?
We are, and we're already seeing a little bit of that. Panattoni Development has built a beautiful new project up on the old Boeing campus in East Anaheim, and that's a classic example of some repurposing of old archaic industrial buildings. We're seeing a little bit of it down in the airport area, but Andrew, as you know, having been a practicing broker in Orange County a number of years ago, there's very, very little vacant land available. Right. And so what we're seeing is, like the Boeing campus would be an example, a lot of repurposing, buying obsolete industrial buildings, scraping them, and then building new.
What advice do you have for business owners who are going to be going out in the marketplace in the next 30 days to 12 months?
I'd give you three pieces of advice. The first piece of advice that I would give you is allow plenty of time. And what does that mean? 12 to 18 months in advance of a projected move or a lease expiration is not too soon. Frankly, in some cases, it may not be enough time. So allow plenty of time. The second piece of advice I would give you is engage a great representative. Digsy has a number of referral partners that can help you, but it's important to go out into the marketplace represented, because once again, it's an owner's market, and if you go out unrepresented, you're really going to create a challenge for yourself. And then the third thing I would suggest to you is consider all of your alternatives. Even though that existing building may be antiquated and you don't have enough office space or it's not functioning exactly the way you would like it to, when you venture out of the marketplace, your existing location might still be the best alternative for you. So make sure you consider all of your alternatives.
Now, to put things into perspective, for business owners, they only move depending on what cycle their business is in. If they're a startup, if they're kind of a established startup, starting to get profitable, or if it's a growing company, why should they start 12 to 18 months given the current state of the market?
The one reason that I would give you is cities, municipalities in which buildings are located are very, very difficult. They're narrowing the amount of allowable uses that industrial buildings can contain, and so your city approval process is much longer than it's ever been. The second reason is there are so few alternatives on the marketplace that it's difficult just to jump in your car, run out and see 3 alternatives and make a lease deal. Lastly, there are a lot of very intricate challenges when it comes to lease documentation. We have AB 103 now, which is a state-mandated energy benchmarking, which can apply to certain size ranges. So it's just a much more complicated landscape, and you need to allow a lot of time to let those various and sundry factors play out.
So it sounds like the reason you want to start early is because, one, you kind of want to have your hand, like your finger on the pulse, because the space you need might not be available today, and you need to be able to actively identify potential properties and jump on them right away. The second thing is, after you've identified that, the lease process right now takes a lot longer. now one thing you didn't mention that I think is important is landlords have a lot of options today. A lot. With so many people looking for industrial space, you might find the ideal space and it just popped in the market 15 minutes ago and there's already 3 parties touring it that afternoon. So there's a high likelihood that you will lose the building, so you need to be actively looking for space. And the other thing that you mentioned was the energy requirements now. That throws a wrench in the whole process, because what ends up happening is you could lease that building tomorrow, but there might be some work that needs to be done, and that's an indefinite amount of time. You don't know if it's something that could be repaired in a couple weeks or if it's going to take months to make sure that that building meets those requirements, correct?
Absolutely right.
Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy guy. We really appreciate you being part of our team. By the way, you take great care of our clients. And with that being said, Alan, thank you. Have a fantastic week. And we'll be back in touch with other updates for the retail market and the office market, so stay tuned.